Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the lesson on cofunction identities, where you will learn how to identify them and solve problems related to this topic. The first thing we need to establish before we talk about the identities is that the condition is the angles must be acute. In other words, the angles must be between 0 and 90. Now, not to confuse this with reciprocal identities. For example, sine is equal to 1 over cosecant. That's where you flip the ratio itself. Here we're primarily focused on angles. Starting off is that sine theta is equal to cosine 90 minus theta, and vice versa over here. In other words, sine angle A is equal to cosine angle B if A plus B is equal to 90 degrees. You guys might remember this as complementary angles where two angles add up to 90. That is crucial for you to remember for this topic itself. The next pair we need to identify is that secant theta is equal to cosecant 90 minus theta, and vice versa. And there we go, the formula on the bottom, where the two trig functions equal each other as long as the two angles that they share add up to 90 degrees. The last pair is tangent and cotangent, where tan theta is equal to cotangent 90 minus theta, vice versa, and the formula is the same thing. So what you really need to remember is that each pair is related to each other as long as you have those two angles equal to 90. So don't go mismatching tangent with cosecant and secant with cosine. These are the pairs that are fixed. Again, don't confuse this with reciprocal identities. Now, these are not the types of problems that you'll see, but here's how it shows why they are the same. So, for example, we have sine of 60. Okay. Now, we are not going to use this in terms of x, y, and r because we're not on a coordinate graph. So that means we're going to go back to the whole concept of opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So 60 degrees and sine is where it's opposite over hypotenuse. So 60 degrees is opposite from the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. So therefore, it's square root of 3 over 2. But that's also equal to its cofunction trig identity, where cosine of 30 is right here, and that's where it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So square root of 3 is also adjacent, and 2 is also the same hypotenuse. So therefore, we have the same trig value, the same trig ratio. And you can do the same thing for all these other ones. So again, sine is the cofunction identity to cosine, cosecant with secant, and tangent with cotangent. Now, this is a chart from a while back focusing on the special angles for 30, 45, and 60. But I just also wanted to see how they are still related to each other in cofunction form. So sine, let's take for example sine of theta is 30 degrees. So therefore the ratio is 1/2. Well, I know that cosine is its cofunction identity, and if 30 is the angle for sine, then cosine has to be 60, because 30 plus 60 equals 90 is 1/2. So see how they share the same ratio as long as they have this complementary angles and that they're related with each pair. So again, remember that tangent goes with cotangent and cosecant goes with secant. So now that you know how it works and what they are, let's now go into problems dealing with cofunction identities. So you have two different types of examples that you'll see. If you think you have a good handle on what to expect, go ahead and try on your own, pause the video, and then just resume it when you're ready to check your answers. Now, I'm not really going to show all the work for this, but let's go ahead and talk about the first one. So sine of 52. Well, I know right off the bat, if I need to find its cofunction as told to me in the instruction, I know that it's going to be cosine. The question is, what is the angle? Well, what can I add with 52 to get 90? Or, if you really think about it, using that formula, you would just say, what's 90 minus 52? And the answer would be 38. So cosine 38. Now I'm just going to go through the rest of these. Tangent is the cofunction of cotangent, and what can you add to 71 to get 90? That would be 19. So complementary is 19. Secant is related to cosecant, and its complementary angle is 66 degrees. So therefore, there's your answer for all three problems. So that could be the one type of problem you could see related to cofunctions. Here's the last one, and I'm going to just walk you through this. If you think you can figure it out, go ahead and do so, and check your answer after you're done. So here we have sine equal cosine already, but we have expressions inside where the angle technically should be. Well, since sine and cosine are cofunctions, and we know that the sum of the angles are complementary, we can set up an equation like this, where x plus 4 plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 90. Now this is just an algebra problem where we have to find x. So you add up your like terms, combine like terms, so x plus 3x is 4x, and 4 plus 2 gives us 6. Then you get x by itself, so you subtract 6 on both sides, you get 84, divide 4 on both sides, you get x equals 21. However, that's not our final answer, because if you read the directions at the top, it says, assume all angles involved are acute, which has to be conditions set beforehand, and now it tells us what to do. It says solve for each angle of each trig function. So all we did was we found the x, but we didn't necessarily find the angle for each trig function. So what we got to do is we have to plug 21 back into the original expressions for each trig function. So you add 21 to 4 for the sine, and you get 25, so that's one of your angles right there. And if you plug 21 back into the cosine function, well, you get 65 degrees. And therefore, you can check your answers to have it correct. 25 plus 65 does equal 90. So therefore, the final answers are sine of 25 degrees and cosine 65 degrees. And that's all there is to it.